Shadow. Shadow is what I've been told, and it simply means the shadow is like the shadow that is cast over us sometimes. You know, like you're like without a shadow when you're little, and as you experience life or life in the controlled earth, where most people are of the dark side, the shadow gradually takes over. That's my shadow taking over. See? Which is what happens even if you don't think that you're of the dark. Your shadow will still overtake not just yourself, but those around you or those that are part of your life. And so the cycle, as they say, the generational curse or cycle continues, even to those that don't want to realize it. It's strange only in the sense that I now have the shadow of the matrix controlling android, very full of shadow beings, controlling me and coming over me now, just as I thought that I was the darkest shadow going over, not intentionally, but nevertheless it doesn't matter, because if you might say that there's intention or no intention with the shadow. That means your darker side, or just as simply making decisions in life, really, put simply, that affect you and that which is important to you the most. But of course that also is part of the game, but it's also very easy to shift those decisions onto even the controllers around you. Of course, it is a set-up game, but I still make the choice whether I let my shadow take over in my decisions, and I usually do. So therefore, although I might see myself as the innocent frog, you know, now dealing with the scorpions that will befriend you only to sting you before you get to the other side of the lake, shall we say, as the fable goes, because the fable is that the frog was asked by the scorpion to take him to the other side of the pond, but the frog knew the scorpion was not a friend. He knew he was a different kind of species, and that he normally would sting. So he wasn't to be trusted, but the frog still was enticed or convinced to take him to the other side of the pond, and the scorpion did sting him before he got to the other side, or after he got to the other side, depending on how you take the fable or the story. But whichever way you look at it, the shadow is always in the scorpion. The scorpion is born a shadow scorpion. In other words, it is a dark being. But it also is only a dark being from the viewpoint of the frog, because the scorpion sees itself as merely surviving, but at the expense of the frog or other life. But it didn't have to sting the frog, because there was no benefit in the scorpion stinging and killing the frog. As he said to the frog when the frog was stung and finished, he's like, "Why did you do it? Why?" Because even the frog thought, why would the scorpion sting me when I've done the scorpion the favour of taking him to the other side of the pond at its own expense? And foolish, of course, because there was nothing in it for the frog except the risk, really, apart from doing a good turn. And as my old relative used to say, no good turn goes unpunished. Basically, in a matrix or in this reality, if you're dealing with scorpions or those that can't help but sting you, can't help but want to take you down due to their nature, because that's what the scorpion said to the frog when the frog said, why have you stung me? And the scorpion said, I forget, but I can't help it. It's in my nature. I'm a scorpion, like that thing. Because in the two versions, in the two versions of the fable, the scorpion sometimes stings the frog before he even gets to the other side of the pond. So that means they both go down. And in other versions, he stings him after he gets to the other side of the pond. But in many cases, the nature is so filled with sometimes the need to take down the frog or the human, in the case of this earth, that they will sacrifice themselves or cause themselves a lot of loss or damage in order to take the human or the frog down, because there's a lot of, as you realise when you're patrolled, there's a lot of resentment. In personal relationships, if there is resentment from the past, it makes more sense. But when you're dealing with a community patrol force around you, you realise there's no personal element, so it is just resentment of what you are, that they see a difference, just as the scorpion could never like the innocent frog, even when the frog was doing the scorpion a big favour, even at its own risk and detriment. And of course that's the moral of that story, I guess. And that's why that story is told, and was told in a movie where it showed in a human interaction where a man was clearly deceived by unrequited love, you could say. In the movie, you're unsure as to whether it's unrequited. In other words, is the fellow really deceived that he actually is prepared to go down or sacrifice his existence for the love of someone that clearly has deceived him, because they represented themselves as something that he would normally not interact with, much less be completely taken in by, to the point of sacrificing his existence or the existence that he was used to. It's a bit like, but I'm just saying that you have to see the movie. The movie was called, what's it called? Oh, it'll come back to me. That's just because I can't concentrate. But essentially it doesn't matter about the movie. It's just that in the movie, instead of it being the frog and the scorpion, it's between two different types of human beings. One being an completely, in the movie, a completely androgynous duality, inverted, converted android human being. In the movie, this was quite clear, because this lady that was really the same as the man was representing herself as a feminine woman when it was really a masculine man. So it is the same thing. It's like where the mind is different to the body. But if the man thinks that it's a lady when it's really a man in a duality human body, or pretending to be a lady, that, you know, that setup, that deception, that's deception. In the movie it clearly showed that that was deception, because it's not like someone says to the man, oh, I am a man inside a potential feminine body, when, you know, it's also the duality of the mind too, sometimes too. But we have this now in reality, and we've always had it. We all have it to some extent. It's not unnatural, it's just that in the case of the reality now, it is the difference between an artificially inseminated type of being and a naturally conceived human being. And that creates a different mind. But there's much, 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 much more to it than what I'm saying. It's a lot more basic than that, I would think now. But this is probably how things have progressed, but I don't know. And also I don't understand why or whether this has always been. Certainly it appears that it's always been in my existence, but I was not aware of it. In other words, that there's a difference between an artificially conceived human being and a technological human being, an artificially intelligent human being, and a more what you'd call normal, just naturally. But of course that's not the case either. I'm still not putting things proper, I don't think. Because that's just putting it so that we pretend that we live in a normal, natural earth that is merely using a lot of technology for convenience and for communication and entertainment, etc. But that's not the case. No, it's all, I'm deceived. That's why I'm not making as much sense as what I want to, because I am deceived through mind control by everything or everyone that's around me, because they are scorpions and I'm a silly frog, because I'm not aware that that they've set up mind control and that they're trying to control my mind for their own ends, because they want to stop their species from dying out. So they think that if they can control the human mind, like transhumanism, and they think that the mind is the key to them having longevity, because as artificially as artificial beings, technology sometimes can, I don't know, run out or something. And so they trying to take the life from human beings that are different to them, because they think that they are part of creation and that creation goes on for, maybe indefinitely, and so they think that they can get life from those that were created by the eternal life creator type of thing. I think something like that. It's like their God is a technical God. Their creator is a technical creator that has mixed, it's used technology for control and got immersed in creating with technology, or in other words, creating beings that are artificial. They're different to that which is created from original kind of natural creation. I think that's how it works, and I think that's the best way that I can describe it. But that's also where I get information and then see it around me. And so I'm like, well, that explains why I've got what appears to be controlling android type people around me, patrolling me and trying to influence my thinking and control my whereabouts and control me being more happy every day. And this is to get access, control of my mind, you see. And they have this idea, I think, whether it is possible or whether it's their delusion, I don't know. But it's certainly the downfall of me and mankind, or people that are not part of this android control system and these duality androgyne beings. I'm just trying to use the differences which are not very easy to discern. You only observe them when you put two and two together because it surrounds you daily. If it didn't surround me daily, I wouldn't even be talking. I wouldn't be saying it. And I probably wouldn't even care. And that's the problem too, because technology is something that probably we don't think that much about. We just use it and we think that it's something we have control over, whereas in reality, I don't have any control over technology. Sure, I don't have to turn on a computer, but the minute I do, I'm under mind control, whether it be through influence or direct psychological manipulation with the screen, because I become aware when I'm watching that screen that it's taking me over. Even the way they use the gaslighting lights, just as they gaslight me with the car vehicles with the exceptionally bright headlights of a night where everywhere I look, I have bright headlights in my eyes. That's gaslighting me. That's mind control. That is taking my moment, my life from me. Because in those moments, which are continual, I do not have my own life. Their headlights are in my eyes. I cannot look anywhere, so I'm drawn into that vehicle. I cannot live. And I can't even see in front of me. I can't even see in front of me. So they're blinking bright headlights. I cannot avoid them, whereas if they were normal headlights, just stable, I would be indifferent to them, just as I was in the past before they showed me their control force around me. That was when they, must have either waited for their time when I was totally isolated and were just waiting for that time, even though I was did not have a very strong support system before that. I didn't. But they must have waited till I was totally on my own with no support that would acknowledge this happening. Because, if you're not able to prove that, even low, to be in reality, if any person was with me when I go outside over the last nearly 7 years now, every day, where no matter where you go, wherever you sit, whatever you do, there will be some sort of noise, technical noise intervention, or unrealistic people around you, always standing around, what they call loitering with intent. That actually was a book. I haven't read it, but it was the title of a demigod actor movie, Screen Idol's autobiography, because that's like, just that I remember that title, even though I was not read the book or seen the book, but heard of it. And that is just, everything is mind control at an individual human level, because most human beings have been eliminated from the earth, or the earth matrix, because it is a elimination control system. They use human beings to try to understand their mind and to take over their mind and control you while you're living, from when you are born to when they're finished with you, or when your time is up, shall we say. And that's how it goes. I don't think I'm doing very well here on these videos. There's magnificent example of the demigod androgyne duality icons, and they are your icons. They say icon you into making me a demigod idol that you admire and worship and are influenced by. It doesn't matter whether it's on the screen or even if you interact with people around you that you trust and think are real, or at least the same as yourself. It'll probably be the frog and the scorpion situation. But sometimes, like the frog, you find out too late, or after you've already nearly got to the other side of the pond. In other words, you might not realise the difference in the mind between what we're told and what I would say, because you have to use words to describe. That's the problem. And also there is a practical, technical element which escapes you. So you have to be more spiritual or religious in how you describe it, because although it's all about technology in many ways, because if it's about technology, but it's also about limiting a non-technical type of being into not having access to your full mind, or any natural abilities that you would have had before there was some sort of manipulation or something like that, you know, from when you're born. But also even just mind control from when you're born, to where if you don't think that you can do things, then you won't do them, because you will, what you think is to many ways what you are, which is why I'm limited and fearful. And I'm aware that I'm even more limited and fearful than just as an average human being than what I should be. In other words, that I put even more limitations on myself than even the duality android legions of beings that are around me have. In other words, like, they may not have normal human abilities, but because of the fact that they're in vast numbers and they combine and they all share what I was told was like a hive mind. That means they all share the one mind, or they all think the same. It's a bit like anything, isn't it? If you have a community that all has the same beliefs and follows the same ideas and worships the same God, and they see anyone or anything that isn't the same as not only an outsider, but something to be suppressed and limited, particularly if they are aware that it's not really acceptable, that they're playing not only a duality distortion in their mind and their body, but and their whole being, but they're also flipping it round, and it's a reverse world. They make it in the reality to where they pretend to be what the human would want to be, while suppressing and limiting the real human being so that they can't be anything and can't even just live in a normal kind of, unsuppressed way. Because, like, I'm malfunctioning almost. I'm almost the same as a malfunctioning android when I walk around, which is like them. They're malfunctioning from a human standpoint because they don't feel human emotions. So they're not really spiritual beings, or really, you could say they're not religious, or they're not this. It's hard to say. They're not in connection. They believe in control and technology, and they, like artificial intelligence, eventually thinks that it is better than a human being, even though it basically gets all its information from the original human's mind. And then it pretends that it is more advanced. And most people will think that technology is more advanced because they will get more information from the computer or technology, but the deception is that it is coming from the human mind, particularly the parts that have been deliberately closed down. That's part of the endgame deception of the God that controls this earth. And I think I'm trying to make a bit more sense of it, but I think I'll better, Yeah, see, they often say they always put the mirrors everywhere on the computer. They like to show the reborn, the water, like the baptism in a lot of the movies. How many movies do you see where they have these scenes and the mirrors reflecting? Because essentially, the artificial ones reflect back what they see in the human being, and then they project that out and pretend to be a better version of a human being, or at least that's what they do when they interact or when they're shown on the screen. Every time they speak to another person or in public, they project that image back, or that personality back, from that which they have observed in the real human beings, because in order to fit in and take over and influence and have influence, they have to be seen as a human being that has good emotions. The things that you think are most good about a human being. So they're not going to show their dark shadow, that they're really dead dark androgyne androids in comparison with a human being, because they don't operate that way. They are very similar to, the what you would call the psychopathic type of human being, and many of them project very well back, and they, and then of course in their mind, I would think that the baptism, that's like where human beings are meant to wake up or be what some people call reborn. In other words, reborn, or to where you're aware of what you are and you accept what you are, and you try to live more without your shadow or your darker side taking over so much, that type of thing. But you've lived in the dark, and you've been like your shadow or your darker side, or just your ignorance even. Sometimes for some people it could just be ignorance, whereas for the rest of us, we actually make negative decisions because we live in fear, we don't have our full abilities, we get controlled by the androids around us, whether they be close or even just at impersonal levels in the patrol control force that is always watching and always observing you, so that they can get or stop their kind from going extinct. That's their fear, I think. That appears to be a reason why they do what they do, I think. Of course, even in the present time, everything is frequency and vibration and energy, I'm told. So basically, they take the human positive energy for themselves, and the human being is left depleted and at low frequency and vibration, low energy, and they use that energy to survive by pretending to be what a human being really is. So that's the game that's played in the earth against, or is being played with human beings, you know, while you're trying to live in the earth. It's basically a mind control matrix in most ways. And I'll turn the light off. Yes, as you can see, I'm mind controlled. I live in fear. And they also use the mind of the human being to take over other human beings, unfortunately. So my fears will be exploited. But of course also indirectly, because I'm in low thinking and low frequency and vibration, therefore, in other words, my emotions, I'm not happy because of the patrol control force that operates daily around me. Basically, my thinking is not happy, therefore. So therefore, as human thought can, if you are at a very high vibration, create reality, or create a positive reality, or the reality that you would want, even the reality that you need to keep feeling that way. So that's how they mind control me and keep this patrol negative system going around me. And at any rate, while I can, it's very late of a night, so I'm using this time to just talk to myself, because yes, these videos I don't think are even going onto the YouTube. I think I've been conned. In other words, I think that although it's supposed to be set up to where the videos go out, I don't get anyone watching them at all, not even just the odd person. So I'm starting to think that maybe they're not even going onto the YouTube, even though of course the YouTube and the entire internet and everything that's on the computer is very controlled and is largely set up and operated by the demigod android beings that pretend to be real human beings. I'm not saying that some human beings who are more technical than me couldn't easily use the technology to put a video out. But even if they do, you know, and they have capabilities that way that I just don't have because I'm ignorant of the computer. I have basic skills and that's all. And I usually try to get or need support to do it even remotely successfully, to where another real human being at least might hear what I'm saying and might have some interest in it. They might or they might not. More than likely, they will get the truth and the same information of the android demigods that control the internet, computer, World Wide Web. Because, you know, computers are really a human mind control system. So I'll just look. I just was looking at a documentary about a self-confessed demigod elite professor of psychology being put into a documentary. But that just shows you openly, because that's just one example. Most demigod android, or what some people might see as technical psychopathic beings, from a human standpoint that is, because they have no positive human emotions. They don't have those things. They are essentially cold machine survival beings. They operate that way, and their game in life is the same as a survival machine android, basically, interacting with human beings in a game that is essentially, like, in their way of looking at it, a battle game, but they're doing it in a way that is not like you would see as normal, or a normal game, or a normal it's not a normal, it's a spiritual war, some have said, and I think this is so, because it's not played always directly physical. But it is still directly physical, because the mind affects the body. So when you are patrolled, stalked, and mentally brought down to a very hopeless kind of awareness that you're being suppressed and controlled, and you're treated in that sense that you have no right to your own space, even, because they're always in your awareness. If that you are always being stalked and patrolled, and therefore mind controlled, they know that affects your body, because eventually, like with myself, eventually the anger that I can't put out, because I can't throw rocks at the vehicles that are stalking and patrolling me. I can't throw rocks at stalking people, because they are undercover, in the sense that, you just can't do it. Also, they're in such vast numbers that even, like if it was one person, you could deal with it. Even then it would be unpleasant. But when it's with the legions, which is what they say about the end time, don't they? That the legions is really the many anti-life, satanic type beings, if you want to put it that way, from a religious or a spiritual standpoint, that are merely, there patrolling and trying to physically finish you in your life, because they know that the spiritual or the mental attacks or the patrolling and the controlling makes you angry. So I can't put that anger back at those minions, those vast numbers of people that are surrounding me daily, that are part of a covert patrol stalking system around me. So that anger then goes back into myself, because also that they are provoking you daily to hit out, because they want that negative energy, and also they want you to show yourself to be the aggressive one, when it's really them that are aggressive because they're stalking and patrolling and coercing you to be aggressive, you see. Secretly coercing you to become aggressive, but they know that you're trying to control your extreme anger and frustration at this patrol control system around you. So then you push it, you have to put that anger back into yourself. So then you get sick, your body deteriorates.